Is your garden drowning in weeds this year? Let's talk about how to create a repeatable system to spend less time in the garden and still achieve the results that you desire.
Are you a mom who dreams of that homestead life you see on Instagram? Who feels called to Christian homemaking? You feel like you'd need an extra 12 hours in your day, along with another set of hands, just to make your home work the way you know it could. Welcome to Simply Living Homestead. I'm Amanda Carlin, wife, mama, homemaker, and milkmaid. I've learned the secret to simplifying my time and homestead so my homemaking supports my family instead of exhausting me, and it makes room for the moments that truly matter. If you're ready to get time back in your day, manage your home with confidence, grow in your homesteading skills, and train your children in the way they should go, grab your pitchfork and planner, friend. Let's get to work.
Welcome back to the homestead. Today we're talking about the missing system behind consistent weeding, why gardens get overwhelming so fast, and how a simple 15-minute routine can completely change your gardening season. But before we jump into today's episode, I want to quickly share something that has really changed the way I approach homemaking and homesteading. One of the biggest reasons our gardens, homes, and routines start feeling overwhelming isn't because we're lazy or incapable. It's usually because we don't have systems that support the life we're trying to build. That's exactly why I created the Homestead Systems Mentorship. It's a coaching space for Christian homemakers and homesteaders who want practical help creating rhythms, routines, and systems that actually work in real life. So instead of constantly reacting to chaos, you can finally build a home and homestead that feels peaceful, manageable, and sustainable. If you're tired of feeling behind all the time and you want help creating simple systems for your home, time, garden, or homestead, you can learn more at simplylivingHomestead.com/coaching or click the link below. Let's jump into today's episode. We had a fairly large storm come through in the middle of June, and for the first time in probably forever, I was actually thankful that we didn't pull the weeds in the peas, because it flattened our corn, it flattened the neighbor's corn, it bent over the tomatoes, and the peas, well, they were fine, because we had planted them very tightly and then had neglected to weed them, and the weeds kept them from flattening and becoming more of a mess than they already were. After the storm, we did get around to weeding them. But weeds generally do not provide that level of support in your garden. More likely than not, you want them to not be there. And for us, it's really easy for gardening to get out of hand, to look outside and think, oh, it's probably okay for one more day, and then suddenly it's not. On the other hand, in the seasons of life where I was walking out to the garden every single day and just pulling the little weeds as they were coming up and just keeping on top of things, the little weeds were easy to pull, and it was nice to walk out to the garden. And when people stopped by, I was like, hey, come see my garden. And now it's kind of my garden's over there. But there is a very simple system to keeping on track of a garden if you choose to employ it. And even if you haven't been employing it and your garden is overgrown with weeds, there is a way to reset it to that state and then implement the system, which is what we have been doing since this storm. Plants will thrive when competition stays low, and that goes the same for your time. So when we can organize our time and take account of our time and we don't have competition, our brains just are going to feel a lot better. So let's talk about a system that you can apply to your garden this year. The one thing about gardens is that they are built through daily maintenance, not occasional massive work days. It is going to work so much better if you're out there every single day. So weeds will become overwhelming because we wait too long. Tiny weeds take seconds. Large weeds, they take hours. Overgrown gardens drain motivation. You don't want to go out there. And once the plants are struggling, everything feels harder. This very quickly leads to, I'm bad at gardening. Really what it means is that you missed the maintenance window. So what is the missing system? The missing system is routine stacking. It is better to go out and spend 15 minutes in the garden every single day than to try and plan one day every couple of weeks to make sure that it gets taken care of. But how do we do that? You can't just say, well, I'm going to go spend 15 minutes in the garden, because that doesn't give you enough direction as to what actually needs to be taking place to be able to actually execute it. So instead, we need to connect it to an existing routine. And this is where routine stacking comes into play. When we attach it to something that's already happening, such as maybe you get your coffee and then go for a garden walk in the early morning, and that feels really nice to you. Maybe that feels like hell. So maybe you go for a garden walk after feeding the animals. Maybe you clean up the house, get everybody ready for the day, get everything prepared, and then, all right, we're going to go outside and we're going to do a garden walk, and then we're going to go feed the animals. Where are you going to stack that into your day depends on what is going to feel good for you. But it is something where if you can attach it to something else that you're already doing consistently, you're going to have much better results. And this is a routine that is going to go into one of either your personal blocks or your home block. Generally speaking, it would be in the home block because it is something that you are doing for your family. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about with blocks, very quickly, I have a system of 3 different time blocks where we set aside time for ourselves, we set aside time for our home and our family, and we set aside time for work. And when we can block out large chunks of time in our day, it is easier to clock in and clock out and spend our time focusing on the thing that matters the most in that block. So, generally speaking, that's something that's going to go in the home block. But if gardening is something that you love a lot, you're just really struggling to find time for it, and it does sound like something you'd like to do where you go out and walk through the garden and pull weeds for 15 minutes while you're drinking your coffee before you have breakfast or something, it is okay to stick it in that spot. Just because the garden is going to feed your family and do all that sort of stuff, you really do want to stick that routine where it feels best to you. But based on the definitions of the blocks, it's probably a home block. So I would start by looking at the routines that are inside your home blocks. But you don't necessarily have to. The important thing is that trigger activity. What is that thing that you're doing first before you go and do your garden walk? And what is the thing that you're going to do after your garden walk so that you can have it plugged in and you're like, well, I finished this thing, whatever that trigger activity is. I am now going to go for a walk in the garden and pull weeds for 15 minutes. When you are doing a 15-minute garden walk, done enough is better than perfect. We are not going to walk out there and realize that the rain last night made 150,000 weeds pop up. You're not going to suddenly feel super discouraged and not pull any weeds. And you're also not going to spend 2 hours out there removing every single weed unless that's what's going to work with your day. You are allowed to go out there for 15 minutes and pull 15 minutes worth of weeds, even if the garden isn't done. Because you know what? You're going out there again tomorrow. The goal isn't a perfect weed-free Pinterest garden. The goal is to stay ahead enough of the weeds that the garden stays functional, right? So you have permission, and you're going to give yourself permission, because me giving you permission over this podcast isn't necessarily going to change anything dramatically for you, right? So you're going to have to give yourself permission to do this. But you're going to give yourself permission to go out for 15 minutes and just pull for 15 minutes. Now, let's talk about a couple of things that we can do to help ourselves have success. That is the system And if you stick to that system, it will work. I promise you, it will work. It has worked every single time I have applied it, and every single time I have fallen off and not applied it, well, I miss it and I have problems. So when I have problems, what do I do to then get myself back to that baseline so I can maintain a 15-minute a day garden weeding session? And you've got two options. One, you can just start it and pull weeds for 15 minutes every single day. In a couple of weeks, you're going to have all the weeds pulled, and you're going to have to go back to the beginning and start pulling again, but you will eventually catch up unless your garden is massive and you, like, maybe you've put in row crops. I use just for context with this, I use a square foot gardening method where everything is in ground boxes. Like, they're just basically defined areas in the garden, and then I have pathing run through everything. And so it's a lot easier for me to just have like a small square. It's 4x8. I have a 4x8 square of garden that I can look at, and I can just weed through that until my time is done. And maybe I have to come back to the same box then later, but that's what works really well for us. There's pros and cons to that. But if you maybe have like rows in your garden, like the traditional gardening setup, and you don't have a tiller or something to take the weeds out of the in between the rows, you might not be able to, and you have a really big garden too, you might not be able to catch up with simply 15 minutes a day. So then your option is, do you plan more time every single day, and just every single day maybe you put in a half an hour, or every day you put in an hour? That's a possibility. If you're really, really behind, you might have to schedule 1 or 2 days to get that garden back down to baseline. And then you can, no matter the size of your garden, well, if you have a really big garden, I shouldn't say that. If you have a really big garden, it might take you more than 15 minutes a day. And that's okay. You need to decide what that number is for you. 15, I feel like, is a very good baseline, especially if you're a small family. But if you're a large family and you're producing a large amount of the food that you are eating, 15 minutes might not be enough. It genuinely might not. And that's okay. Maybe you need to dedicate a half an hour every single day. Maybe you need to dedicate 2 separate blocks of 15. Do 15 in the morning and 15 in the evening. Find what's going to work well for your family. Maybe you need to include a child or two as part of their delegated responsibilities, like we talked about last week. Maybe that's something that's going to help. But whatever you're doing, your goal is to have these tiny, consistent actions that are going to protect your energy for later. So that daily maintenance is going to help create that peace that your garden is never going to get too far out of hand. Also, just a really quick note here. If you are desperately struggling with weeds, you need to consider some sort of ground cover, whether it is leaves or mulch or really good quality straw that's had all the seeds taken out of it. I actually use sawdust mulch because I can get it free. You just don't want to mix that into the soil too heavily, or it'll bind up the nitrogen. But I haven't found that a small amount causes that amount, like that big of an issue in our garden. But that's my garden. So be careful with that piece of advice, but you do want to cover your soil. The soil is always trying to revert itself to a covered state. So if you can cover it, it's going to take longer for it to go into that covered state of growing the seeds and stuff. So just a quick note there. So let's wrap up today's episode. If your garden is already feeling overwhelming, you're not failing. You're not. A lot of gardens get behind in these busy seasons as summer starts kicking off, school is out, all the things are happening, and you don't have to fix your entire garden today. Your first goal is to return it to the baseline. Your second goal is to protect the baseline with a system. And that system is our action item for the day. I want you to create one routine for your day and attach a 15-minute garden walk through to it. come on over and share it in the group. Post a picture of your garden. If you've done the steps of resetting it, share it before and after. Let us see the fact that, your garden was messy and you did a great job and you got in there and you did the hard work and you got the dirt under your fingers and you did a good job. And you're going to now commit to a regular routine of just walking through it and keeping the weeds down so that your garden can thrive. If you want to share your routine that you have your garden walkthrough attached to, I would love to see it and encourage you in that. Consistent gardens are usually system built, not just motivation built, because at some point that motivation is going to run out. Tiny daily actions prevent giant, exhausting catch-up sessions. Your goal isn't perfection, it's stewardship and consistency. You absolutely can create rhythms that support your homestead. As a reminder, if this is feeling super overwhelming and you'd like someone to walk beside you and offer you encouragement or accountability, there is the Homestead Systems Mentorship. That is a private one-on-one 1-hour call with me. I would love to have you there, but if that's not quite your speed, you can always come over to the community and I can help you with accountability over there. Until the next time, friend, I hope you have a lovely day. Hey neighbor, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share this episode with a friend who is knee-deep in their own homestead? Also, please leave me a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. It thrills me to know that this podcast is helping you. Keep watching those sunsets, friend. I'll meet you back here on the homestead soon for another episode. See ya!